Hey everyone. So today we have a very, very special guest that I think most of you guys that follow us will know. So from the band Cut You Up, Riding in Bands with Boys, Monday Mass podcast, and now you can catch him with his new band Sunbender, Chris Cote. So thank you so much for coming on. And before we dive into anything, is there anything else that you would like to add to your resume that I might have missed?
I think for where we are right now, you nailed it.
That's awesome. So I guess we're kind of able to just jump straight into it and start off maybe at the beginning. Now, I know a lot of people might know this, but actually that you did start off as a roadie before you really broke into the being on stage. So maybe you can kind of let us know how did that all come about? How did you get into the industry? All of that kind of stuff.
What is a
Yeah.
roadie?
I always wanted to be in a band, and it wasn't until probably my mid to late teens where I started listening to Sonic Youth and Slint and bands that kind of made me realize that you if you have the heart and the passion for it, you don't have to be super. Not that they weren't technically advanced, but in terms of what I heard, I was like, okay, well, this is interesting music. I feel like I can make this. It wasn't like the Led Zeppelin and the Rolling Stones that I listened to with my dad, my brother, and stuff. So it was kind of like, oh, this is my stuff, and I could potentially make this. So I always wanted to be in a band, and through a friend, Rick DeVoe, who I'm sure you guys knows the longtime manager of Blink 182 from the very beginning. He got me linked up with the band, and we became quick friends. I was the kind of named the roadie slash drum tech for Scott Rayner way back in the day when they just started their ascension to where they are now as being one of the most popular bands in the world. So I didn't know anything. I could kind of play drums, but I didn't know any of the technical stuff involved. And luckily, Scott's drum set was pretty easy to set up. It wasn't anything super technical. It was just a simple 3-piece drum set. I could do that, stance, cymbals, all that. So it was a good, easy transition. And, it was kind of still the Wild West. We were in bands, and it was just punk rock, and it was super fun because it was going so fast and growing so quickly. And for me, I was, 21, 22 years old, living the dream. I didn't even have the pressure of playing shows. I just got to enjoy all the fun parts of it. So I was a drum tech for Scott for a little while. And then when Travis joined the band, I was his drum tech for a few years there. That was a whole different ball game. I learned very quickly what like a pro drum set was. The first time I met him, and I was with Rick DeVoe, and Rick said, Travis, this is your drum tech. He comes with being in Blink 182. And so we met, and he's like, oh, great to meet you. And he goes, there's my drum set over there. And I went over there, and this is the first time I ever had seen a drum set in 2 rolling road cases. I'd never seen it before. Floating rims on the drums, all kinds of new technical drum set gear that I had no idea how to use or how to set up, and I did not know how to tune drums. Basically, I was the worst drum tech ever. The first time I set up Travis's drums, I was panicking. Like I said, I didn't know what to do. I opened these cases, and I'm going like, what is this? And so luckily, there was another roadie there, a guy named Puppety that worked for Blink for a long time in the early days, and he helped me set up Travis's drum set. And I'll never forget, I think this was in Ventura, the first show Travis played with them. And it was sound check, and I was like, all right, I think I did it. And he sat down, expecting the drums to be fully tuned and ready to go. And he hits the tom-tom, and it makes the weirdest sound. And he makes what was my first time seeing that famous Travis Barker kind of like sour face, like that, like, ooh, and he hit the drum. He looked at me like, what are you doing? And so it was a pretty quick study, and I never really mastered the knack of tuning drums ever. And then obviously when Travis started spinning upside down and having pyrotechnics fly out of his drum set, that was way beyond my skill level as a drum technician. So basically that's where I parted ways in that capacity. But throughout my time working for Blink, I was always giving them crap, telling them that my band was better, that indie rock is better than punk, like, why don't you guys sound more like Fugazi? Why can't you play music like Slint? So basically, I would just, you know, make fun of, they would make fun of me back. And finally, it got to the point where Tom and Mark were basically like, okay, well, your band is so good, we're gonna have you open up for us at an arena show in San Diego. I didn't have a band. I was making it all up. I wasn't lying because in my mind I had a band.
Yeah.
So I came up with this name, Cut You Up. It was named after a music made by a drummer named Mario Rubalcaba for a kind of obscure skate video. So I called the band Cut You Up. Got basically dared to do an arena show. And so I quickly gathered two friends, Brendan Rosh and Dylan Rosh, and we made a 5 or 6 song set. Pretty weird, hard music, double drums, rudimentary, punk rock, indie rock. And we played, I think, we had 3 or 4 practices. We played 1 or 2 shows at a local bar. And I want to say our second or third show was an arena show with Blink, Weezer, The Grimm, and a couple other bands, which I have all the flyers. I have everything from every show we ever played. So that was kind of the genesis, not only of my band, Cut You Up, but also what eventually would become Riding in Bands with Boys. It all started with me making fun of Blink and their music, and in turn getting dared to put my money where my mouth was. So they basically helped form Cut You Up.
That's awesome. Like, it's just crazy to think of being a roadie, especially back then in that early time. I mean, when you look at it, what Travis has done some amazing things, like you were saying, Pyro, Upside Down, all these things. Did you ever think that, when you were tuning his drum kit, that he was going to be, the hit that he now is, and playing on all of these artists' albums and everything? What did your did you ever maybe sit back and say, oh my gosh, this guy's going to be going places?
Yeah, I mean, he was above and beyond a lot of drummers that I had seen, and especially for the music that they were playing. Like I've been a fan of drummers forever. Mario Rubalcaba is a perfect example. He played in a band called Klickitat Ikatawi, and I mean, you wouldn't be able to see his arms, and he was playing these tribal, high-speed, incredible beats. So I knew what a highly technical drummer was like, and I knew what a punk rock drummer was like. Travis was kind of the perfect mix of those things. You listen to early Blink and it's pretty straightforward, right? It's just punk rock drumming. And then you listen to what Travis infused in their music, the fills throughout the entire songs. And, to me, watching that, I was like, this guy is special. And the seriousness in which he practiced and honed his drumming and honed his craft. I mean, the guy woke up and started playing on a drum pad. And that was another kind of one of my jobs, is to go backstage before when they started getting bigger and bigger and the shows got bigger, to set up Travis's practice stuff in the backstage room. Sometimes a practice drum set, but most times just a practice pad. And he did not go anywhere without his practice pad and sticks. And you would just hear paradiddles and just practice all the way leading up to the show. After the show, like, those guys didn't really party super hard. Like, every once in a while they would cut loose, but all I remember from working with Travis was how serious he took it and how much he practiced. I mean, he probably goes through 3 practice pads a year because he's just constantly on those things. So that was pretty incredible for me to see somebody who, coming from punk or indie rock or whatever, you just like, oh, we're just in a band and we have band practice. But I realized, like, what it took to become a serious musician like Travis, because he puts daily hours and hours, and still does, to this day. He's still practicing on his drum pad every chance he can get. So that was pretty eye-opening for me. And yeah, I think we all realized early on, in basically one of the, like, scouting missions that we were on, we went or Blink played with the Aquabats, who Travis was playing with at the time, and we were all just watching him. Like, there was no other. I love the Aquabats. I love the act. It's super fun. But at that moment, like, we were transfixed on what Travis was doing, because, again, light years above and beyond, like, any drummers in our world at that time. So I think everybody knew that Travis was going to be very special. I don't think anybody knew that he would go on to do all these huge things outside of punk rock, but it wasn't surprising at all, because he was always into the 808s and kind of like when he got the budget, when he got the ways and means to add technology to his kits. I mean, you know, you got to remember he played just like basic 3-piece drum kit early on, but then it was like he had toys. He became like Batman. Yeah, the triggers, the 808s, just like the whole deal, and he really embraced that, and that was pretty rad to see because you think of Blink's music in the beginning phases. It was very simple, straightforward punk rock. He brought this incredible musicianship to the band, and of course added to the live show, making it, you know, it sounds like there's 10 people on the stage when Travis is playing drums like that.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. It really, it's again the fact of just like you were saying, what his kit evolved into. Just in general, it's night and day different from those early, or I guess late Dude Ranch days. So
an addition to bring the gong back if we could.
Yeah,
that huge one from behind, yeah. Was that
Chris,
04?
For fans of his gear, was that?
I was gonna say, was his first kits were Orange County Percussion, OCP.
Yeah, that it's evolved since, and I think yeah. What is he with now? What is he on? It's
DW.
Yeah.
And I was gonna ask Chris, for fans of the gear, yeah, what do you remember about his first kit? Do you remember the color? Do you remember how many things were on it? What do you remember?
I want to say it was a pretty basic kit. It was definitely OCP. You know, it may have been gold or silver, but again, it wasn't like super memorable like some of his kits became through the years. Basically, I want to say kick drum. His snares were always. Oh, a cool element of his snare drums back then was he would have me put Fallon marching head drum heads on his snare, and you could crank those things. I mean, they were made of like Kevlar or something. You crank those things with a metal snare or a thick wooden snare, because if you had anything like not thick enough or not strong enough, I mean, you could just like break right through using those Fallon heads because they would not break. So that was a unique element that I saw that Travis did that no one else did, was using a marching drum head on his snare drum. It gave it such a loud pop, a snap. And, you know, that was part of my duties, is switching that thing out basically every single show, along with all the other heads. So I want to say floor tom, rack tom, snare, bass, scoop crash cymbals, ride, hi-hat. So basic, straightforward drums. He always had custom, you know, really cool custom thrones made, you know, with like cool patterns and prints. But to me, the most memorable thing was that Fallon, you know, that Fallon marching drum head on that snare that just gave it the most just loud, explosive pop and snap. And I still have a couple of those drum heads somewhere around here. I know I got one of his old drum heads autographed by Billy Idol. So that's random.
That's super random. That's awesome though. Again, just simple though.
It's out after the show, you know, to kids in the audience and stuff. So that was pretty cool.
I love getting random things signed. One time I met Travis and I brought the front of an Xbox 360, and he was like, "Why do you want me to sign this?" I was like, "I don't know."
I got nothing else, man. Just so Pop Disaster Tour kind of comes up, you know, and then they say, okay, you can come with us on tour. First, so that must have been like the Pop, for me anyways, that is my favorite, I think, tour by far, is the Pop Disaster. The fact of how many amazing bands on one card is just incredible. So being a part of that, I mean, you guys must have, and I know a lot of it's documented on Riding in Bands, but is there any, you know, story or memory that immediately comes to mind when you think of that 2002 tour?
I mean, that it's hard not to say that was like the best time of my life and our lives as a band. You know, you're in your mid to late 20s, get invited on this national tour, basically 2 months. We were really good friends with the guys in Blaine, Tom, Mark, and Travis, and it all came together. John Humphreys, working with them at Atticus and Macbeth Shoes. We had Resting Bird Entertainment, and the concept was, as it is pretty much explained in the documentary. You know, again, it was kind of like the first time we got dared to open for Blanket and Arena show after not being a band at all. It was like, do you guys think you could pull this off? And everything in the documentary is as it happened. You know, nothing is scripted. It went down like that. And for us, I think that nobody can accuse us of not taking full advantage of every single opportunity we had on that tour. If you have a piece of memorabilia, this right here is a tour diary that I took on the tour. And basically it goes from day one. I was pretty crafty back then. Goes from day one all the way through to the very end. I mean, so this is basically the voiceovers and kind of the direction of the documentary that Matt Bouchain so expertly made at a young age. Dude is a genius. But the voiceovers and kind of the cadence of the documentary came from this book right here. April 15th, 2002, I put Cut You Up Tour, because basically that was our job, is to just make it our own. And we had to, very much. And, you know, you can tell a lot of these like entries are very scribbly and hard to read. And that's because, you know, obviously as you watched it, you knew we were pretty loaded the whole time. Pretty fun. Like, this was when we were in Las Vegas. You know, I got our room keys. I got some receipts from the partying that we did. Oh, this napkin right here. This hasn't seen the light of day in a long time. This is something about don't fuck around with the biscuits and gravy. Yeah, like this is a lot of stuff that I'm gonna go ahead and have to rewatch this movie to see what this was for.
If you put that on eBay, I would like to bid on it.
I'll go grab this box over here. Still, like, I'm a bit of a, I don't want to say hoarder, but I'm a collector, right?
Yeah.
So, example of just the stuff that I saved. This wasn't in the movie, but Cut You Up hosted an awards show for the tour. This is written on the back of a Blink-182 like runner list. Like, this is what they would put. What they wanted backstage, like, oh, we want socks, we want snacks. So this was an awards show that we put together on that tour. That was a sketch for the jacket that I got tattooed on my arm, which I still have. Yeah, I mean, this thing's full of ridiculous stuff and drawings, and you know.
So I was at the.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I was at the Pop Disaster tour in Atlanta, and Trey Cool was watching you guys. You were playing on the side stage at this show, and he was watching you on the side, and we were all like, "There's Trey Cool, there's Trey Cool." We had no idea who you were, but then they gave us. You're gonna crack up. I've had this trash can since high school. You can see how many stickers are on it. But check it out.
Nice. Okay, Atlanta. I just so happened to open this book to the page in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And
Right.
if you've watched the documentary, you see that we went out to a drag show after the show. And wow, we had a great time. And that's because we met a young lady named Cassidy at the mall. And we invited her to the show. And so after the show, she invited us to her drag show with all her friends. And it was amazing.
We need to find her today.
Yeah, where is Cassidy?
What's Cassidy up to these days?
You might recognize some of those songs.
Oh yeah.
Nice. Is that the set list from the Atlanta show?
That's Milwaukee.
Milwaukee side.
That's so
Milwaukee. Yeah, so this tour book is going to come in handy later as we're working on some pretty cool stuff with this. But yeah, like that's just an example of like something I kept, and I could go grab this other box. Yeah, I don't have any of the guitars or anything left from that tour, but I do have a lot of ephemera and fun stuff. You know, like I said, I mean that the documentary at the time we were just filming and we were just doing what we do and breaking all the rules that were set by the people who brought us out on tour. And so whatever, you know, the feeling that people get when they watch the documentary, you know, we hear a lot that this was like surfing and skateboarding, right? Before you go surf, before you go skate, you watch a skate video or you watch a surf video to get excited. We heard a lot, and we still hear a lot, that people used to watch this video, riding in bands with boys, before they went partying with their friends or before they went to a big show to get themselves pumped up. Probably not the best influence, but
I'll say, like, I have it obviously right here, but I've probably watched, especially when it came out. When it came out, I was what, 17, and it was everything for me, right? Like, it was all of my favorite bands behind the scenes, you know, skateboarding, doing kind of all the things that like we would do here. In like, I'm in a little, like, I mean, relatively speaking, a little city in Canada. So seeing this this documentary and just seeing, like, it almost became like these guys could be our friends. We could hang out with these guys, we could party with these guys, we could, you know, whatever with these guys, and that was a huge thing. And I think that, you know, if you think about it, it's been how many years now since that, like 15 years or something like that, like, and people are still talking about this little documentary. Like, it definitely changed a lot of people's lives, I think. Anyways, it was a huge influence on me. But it's, yeah, I think most recently I watched it. It was the first time I watched it. It was, I guess, a few months ago, but first time with commentary on it. And that's, if for those who haven't watched it with commentary, watch it with commentary. It's a whole different movie. It's so good though. It's so good.
yeah, I have a 12-year-old and a 15-year-old, two sons, and I would be scared for them to watch that with commentary because more.
So you touched a little bit on, you know, not having the guitars anymore. So they say, okay, cut you up, you're on the show, you're on side stage, whatever it is. Did you already have the gear waiting, or did you have to go purchase gear? I know Tom gave a couple guitars to you guys that I wanted to talk a little bit more in depth on, but before that, did you have to go out and buy, or did you already have?
We had all the most kind of like rudimentary gear you could get. I had two Fender bass guitars, one that I borrowed from a friend to be a backup, and they were kind of just your very basic, a Fender P bass and maybe a Fender jazz bass, black, like nothing super special, but I always loved the way they looked and the way they played. So I guess to say like a low to mid tier level Fender bass guitar is my main one, a jazz bass, and then a Fender P bass as a backup. And I kind of a funny, embarrassing story there. When we got asked to play the last show, and this is gear that I just got for myself, and I had like a crappy little bass amp, you know, like a little, I don't know, little small stack. Basically, amps and equipment that you would play in a dive bar with. We were bringing them out on a national tour. So the embarrassing thing about the bass that I had, I brought two basses. When we got to play the main stage at the spoiler alert, the very end of the document, I was playing, and I always really wanted to smash a guitar. It's been a dream of mine, and this was the opportunity. It was the last show of the tour. I had two bass guitars, and so I don't know if you can see it in the movie, and I probably shouldn't even admit it, but I'm playing, and I take my good bass off and grab the other bass off the stage and smash that one.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, well, now I'm ruining that bass friend. And when I got home, he was like, "Oh, can I get my bass back?" And I was like, "Oh yeah." I smashed it, and so making it worse was that I wasn't even actually like playing that bass when I smashed it. So again, it was pretty embarrassing. I did buy my friend a new bass to replace that old bass, but it was worth it. And then, side note, my stepdad and I made a table, and I have kept the smash bass forever. We put the smash bass in the table, and then put like acrylic over it.
Oh, nice.
And made a coffee table out of it, which I had for years, and I just sold it to a deadhead down in San Diego, so it's still around.
Nice.
So those guitars, I would just play through like a tuner straight into the bass riff. So nothing exciting there pedal wise. I was always notoriously pulling the chords out of the pedals and out of the guitars, like dancing around. So my people would always get mad at me because I was always like messing songs up, like pulling the cables out. we had like short cables. We had nothing nice. And this is all stuff that we loaded into a trailer every single night, in and out. We didn't know where we were playing. And so the gear got pretty beat up. The two nice pieces of gear that we got from Tom DeLonge. There were two customized Les Paul guitars that he had played for years and years. Basically, the customization was, I believe, there were Seymour Duncan pickups put in those guitars, and it was when he first started doing just the only volume knob. All the other knobs were taken out and just one volume knob. So we got a kind of a red wine colored one and a black one. Hard cases for the first time ever as well. And those were the primary guitars that we used. Micah Matson, Brandon Parkhurst used those guitars for most of that tour. I'm sure we had a backup guitar or two. I don't remember ever having to pull those out. Luckily, like, we were homies with the guitar techs and all the other guys from the other bands, so they would hook us up with strings and, like, keep the guitars nice and working great. Without those guys, like, those things would have been long gone. We had those guitars for kind of years after, and I guess just over time. I want to say, like, a while back, I just kind of like got the thing was just in my attic forever. Like, I moved on to playing Fenders, and the Les Paul, to me at the time, was just very heavy. It just wasn't like my style. And so I eventually sold one of them on Reverb, and I think it was like $5,000 or something ridiculous. Like, I had no idea that the guitar on its own, maybe like $800 or $1,000, but since it was Tom's like stage played guitar and recorded on a couple albums, like, there's a lot of Blink-182 fans out there that are willing to pay a lot of money for memorabilia, especially if it's still playable. So those two guitars are out in the world somewhere, and I'm sure they're being enjoyed and hopefully used by whoever bought them. So those are the guitars. Our drummer Brendan played a basic black Sonar kit. Same thing, just bass, rack, floor tom. Very pretty simple. This is like shit that you would see at a local dive bar, indie rock club. Not a national tour. All our stuff was barely hanging in there. We had a kind of a normal PA head, just two speakers and a PA head, which we blew up. I think 3 of those on the tour. You see in the video, I think we were in Arizona, which was maybe like the 3rd or 4th show. We blew up the PA head and it caught on fire while we were playing. So that was exciting. We had the bare minimum gear that anyone would ever bring on a tour. And like I said, if we didn't have access to the guitar tech department, like, we would have been screwed.
Yeah, the guy that has the black Les Paul follows us, so I'm sure he's watching and appreciates you a lot. So, I was curious about the documentary itself. Were you paid for it? Were you approached to do it? Were they using you as a way to get a Blink doc? Like, what was the goal there?
The whole thing was actually was Tom's idea, and so they had set aside a budget for us. It was like a couple $100 a day for per diem and gas and all that, and then like a side fund, an emergency fund for gas and food and places to stay. We would always blow through our per diem. This got it. We didn't have a tour manager. We had a driver, a guy named Zach Keenan, who, we put him through hell. Of it. Yeah, we kind of just managed ourselves poorly. So we would always end up having to like beg for food and booze and gas money. Sometimes we would take turns riding on the big dogs buses, which caused some tension sometimes between band members because I was like best friends with the Blink guys, and so I would get invited on the bus for overnight drives and stuff like that. Yeah, like, I think that in a low-key way just added so much to the documentary because it, like, that's where the drama comes in. You miss a show because you were in the lap of luxury and the rest of the dudes are like in this van. So thankfully we did take turns riding in those buses because it definitely added to the storytelling of the documentary.
So just going back to the Les Pauls. So when you were going on tour, did you ask for them? Did Tom just say, "Hey, you guys need gear? Here you go"? Like, how did that all come about?
I think we asked for them, or we asked it like, "Do you have any extra gear we can borrow?" borrow. Yeah. So I think he was switching over to Fender at that time, and so obviously he had a ton of guitars laying around.
Mhm.
We probably could have collected a lot more gear along the way, but we didn't have room for it, and we kind of only like whatever we needed we had. So yeah, I want to say that since Tom and Mark's companies, Atticus, Macbeth, Resting Bird Entertainment, they funded the whole thing. I think they felt like obviously partially responsible to help us out. We were clueless idiots, enjoying ourselves beyond the music. Well, but enjoying ourselves was very close to the importance of that.
Hey, we've been told multiple times by a bunch of techs or management that Mark and Tom are not like John Mayer when it comes to gear. They're just like, you plug it in and you play. Like,
Yeah.
We don't know all these technical things. So. Punk rock, man.
Yeah, it was fun to see, to see their gear grow, and like I said, I had a front row seat to it. I remember when they first got Mesa Boogie amps, Mesa Boogie cabinets, and they were so stoked. Their first kind of like custom gear that they ordered, that they got, and I'll never forget when they took delivery of it and like set it all up. It just looked so badass. I was like, wow, this is a real band. Like, these guys have made it. Look what they have. They have a stack, brand new Mesa.
So maybe moving on to your current gear that you have now, between you and Brandon, not really anything Gibson kind of going on. It's very Fender-esque. So maybe talk to me a little bit about what you are using now.
Mostly use this. This is the Duke
Oh,
popcorn.
jeez.
Yeah. I got my.
Brian wants to borrow it. Brian wants
I-
to borrow it.
Yeah, you can borrow it. I just need it for a couple more days. I played Fender basses forever. Probably my favorite one was a short scale Mustang bass. I played that in Cut You Up. I played that in basically everything that I ever did. But recently I started Sunbender with Brandon and Frank Dixon, our drummer. And I just wanted something with more beef. And so
Yeah.
I had been messaging Steve Albini on Twitter, just a couple little things here or there, like not trying to overdo my fandom. But he had posted a photo of a T40 PV. So this right here is a 1979 PV T40, and it is very solid. I mean, I don't know how much this thing weighs, a lot. But I kind of figured to be in a three-piece, you needed a weapon of ass destruction. And he recommended this bass to me, and so I would basically do whatever Steve Albini told me to do. So I got this one,
That's
and
sick.
I love it. I mean, this thing is just like, again, I'm not super technically proficient on this, so I couldn't tell you the specs, but I can tell you that when you put this thing on, you kind of feel like a badass. And the main thing that I think a lot of people don't like about it is how heavy it is. But for me, I kind of like that. It gives me like a...
I am a huge fan of maple necks on basses, so.
Yeah. Oh, God.
So, Chris, I don't even know what instrument you play. Is your main instrument bass or guitar or drums? Like, what do you play? What's your main thing?
I play everything okay. Mainly bass, but I'll show you this thing right here. It's pretty fun. So I play bass, I play guitar, I play drums, everything at a very rudimentary level. But as anybody who's a grown-up in a band knows, it's hard to be a grown-up in a band.
I think I know what you're bringing out too.
Yeah, people have schedules, they've got stuff to do. So I also play solo. When I play solo, I play this thing right.
Yeah.
That's so sick.
That's
So-
a perfect karaoke guitar.
Yeah. So Fender Guitars is a company out of Texas, and they do kind of like small batch pre-order guitars. This is made after a Tesco double neck guitar. So guitar on the bottom, or guitar on top, bass on the bottom. You can switch back and forth right here. Micah Matson, who's in Cut You Up, his brothers are in a band called the Matson 2.
Mhm.
Incredible two-piece jazz band, and guitar right here. So Jared and Jonathan Matson rely on this to make all the sound that they make. They play at Tesco. I couldn't afford one, nor would I want to pay a lot for this, because you look at all of the stuff on this and all the stuff that can break. I don't want. I didn't, and I'm not good at spending a lot of money on good equipment. So thankfully, these Eastwood guitars are built super well. It was only like $800 plus shipping or whatever, which to me, I think this thing's probably worth kind of a lot more now that it's not in production anymore.
Mhm.
The thing stays in tune incredibly well. I've taken this thing all around the world. It's built tough. It sounds great. And I think, I have a guitar strap on my T40 that says, if you can't dazzle them with brilliance, baffle them with bullshit. And when people walk in and they see a solo act with this right here, like, you don't really have to be playing anything that good because it just looks cool.
Look, really
It
talented.
looks
Yeah.
talented.
So Chris, I have to ask this. This is one of my questions I was going to ask, and it's perfect that you brought that out. So the 5 sticker you have on quite a few of your instruments. What's the meaning behind the 5?
The 5, it's just been my lucky number forever.
Okay.
When I'm driving, I just randomly put 5s on all my cars. I have a 5 tattooed on my arm right here. It's just my lucky number. And I remember Pete Townsend of The Who, he had his guitars numbered, and they had a big number something, like a big number on the guitar somewhere. I just always thought that looked super cool. And so I don't have a 5 on my current guitar yet. I'm looking for the perfect 5 sticker for that guitar, but everything else I have 5s on. Guitar over there has 5s on too. It's just, not like superstitious. Just think that it looks cool and it's my lucky number, so I run with it. It's also right here. This is a guitar strap my mom made for me.
Well, that's awesome.
There's the
I
5.
love that. Yeah.
Yeah, my mom's pretty crafty, so that's the strap that I use for my double neck guitar. And I think that's why it makes playing my 79 T40 bearable and fun, is because I play with the double neck guitar a lot, and that's as heavy as 2 guitars in one. So I'm kind of used. Yeah.
So Brandon in the band uses a Fender Starcaster, which
Yes.
is really, really cool. And I'm sure, as you know, is the Fender Starcaster has become, let's just say, a little bit more popular in the past, call it, year. So with obviously Tom not playing that, I guess Brandon was just ahead of the curve with it all.
Yeah, and to be honest, I didn't like the look of that guitar when I first saw it. The body's cool. I just did not like the headstock.
Yeah, no one
Yeah,
does.
nobody does.
It's grown on me, and I think, like, again, being in a 3-piece, you want to get the most out of all your instruments. So when we first started Sunbender, I was kind of like, all right, Brandon, like, what guitar are you going to play? What are you going to get? Jaguar, because he used to have a cool Jaguar. He's played all different types of guitars, and he's like, I'm playing this. And I'm like, that's the guitar? Starcaster? My doubt wore off pretty quick when I hear what he can do with it, and I'm used to the headstock now, and I actually kind of love that guitar now. Do I wish the headstock was different? Yes. Would that make it cooler? Yes.
All
But
the haters in the comments, it's a German carve. It's a very artistic German shape.
Yeah. yeah,
Sure.
I'm like, I love a classic Fender headstock. I think this is
Yeah.
like a daily driver. There used to be a stigma to people playing Squires.
Yes. for
Yeah.
sure.
My good friend Otis Bartholomew from
Yeah.
Fluff and Harshmallow, he basically told me he was the one that made me go like, oh my God, Squires are the best, because you can beat them up, they sound amazing, they're cheap, you can get a couple of them, And then obviously Jay Mascis started playing them and released his own Squire version. So I'm like, Squires rule. And just, even though it says Squire right there, you don't have to feel self-conscious. Squires are awesome. This is kind of like the daily driver practice guitar. See, there's the Big 5.
That's my favorite guitar that you got, I think. I think that is by far, I think my favorite piece of gear you own is that one right there.
Yeah, I mean,
I love that guitar. I think that's sick.
I love this thing. Just a Fender Cyclone. It's like a mix of a Strat and a Jaguar.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, but to me, it's like the perfect guitar. I do have a Telecaster Deluxe at my house that's under my bed. And it's so nice and so beautiful and basically like my dream guitar, but I don't play it because like, I dream about it. I love it so much. It's got a classic Telecaster style body with a fat head on it, like a fat headstock. And I used to have a friend that worked at Fender, and there's no reason anyone should ever give me a guitar because I'm not good at it. But he found it in his heart to build me a custom one from basically parts at the Fender custom shop.
Whoa.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's a family heirloom.
What color is it?
Oh, it's black.
Black maple neck. Awesome.
Maple neck, I believe. It's just beautiful. It's just like, and it's so buttery. It feels like you're just, I gotta play that thing more.
You were talking about Squires. Do you remember at those Blink shows they would smash a guitar at the end? Do you remember anything about that guitar that was smashed? Was it just like a cheap Squire?
Yeah. So basically the same thing I did.
Was there just like a pallet of those things and like just sitting behind the stage and you grab one each time? And
yeah, I think from what I remember there was, because I know like Green Day would give out guitars and Blink would give and smash guitars, and I just remember there being like boxes of Fenders, Strats and stuff just all over. Most likely Squires, but they use them. Tons of guitars for like autograph things, for charity events, giveaways. There was always boxes of Fender guitars around, like at all times. So I'm sure some of them that got smashed were not the daily drivers, but the daily sacrifice.
Yeah,
daily sacrifice. Yeah. So let's kind of switch to kind of the present. So you're now made a band called Sunbender.
Yes.
So and that is so how did that all come about? Because you from what I've seen anyways, like you've took a break from Cut You Up after I guess it was 03 or whenever it was, and then I know in 2018 you did it again with a newer guitarist. So what when you did Sunbender, what's the difference between the two bands that you wanted to get out there anyways?
Yeah, so basically Micah Matson moved up north, and he became a train conductor, which is awesome. We brought a guy named Matt Amador into the band, who was in the band for 10 years. He's an amazing guitar player, great dude. But just kind of eventually it just kept going and going and going, and like we're all great friends still, but it just became harder and harder to get practices together, and people were asking us to play shows a lot, and that's kind of why I started playing solo, because I'm like, I still want to play. I want to perform. I'll play anytime, anywhere, any dive bar, anything. Like I love doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And so myself, Brandon Parkhurst, just started jamming together a little bit. We've always had a really deep connection, personally and musically, everything. And so we kind of just started writing these songs, and they came pretty quickly. And then we just decided, like, look, we have opportunities, because people message us and email all the time. Hey, can Cut You Up play this show? Can you guys play this? Can you play that? And I had to say no for so long that I was like, screw it. Let's start something new. So it's Brandon and I playing songs, writing songs. Brandon had the great idea. So that's basically why it sounds a lot like Cut You Up. It's him and I singing back and forth, as always. My bass playing, which is pretty rudimentary, paired with his guitar playing that's just getting better and better, has that Cut You Up feel. We're more mature, we're better at our instruments now, and so that's why the songs, I think, have like a different quality to them. Still rock and roll, but more psychedelic elements, a little bit more technicality, I guess. but the singing is going to sound very similar. And him and I just love, we go back and forth and sing together so easily. So he had the idea of bringing on a drummer, Frank Dixon. We call Frank Joey because he's like a little baby Joey kangaroo. He just lives in the pocket. He's the best dude you could be in a band with. He's so nice and just, he's the best. And so as a three-piece, we came together and we were kind of going like, oh, we should get a keyboard player. We should get this, that. But eventually when we started rehearsing, we started practicing, we're like, this is it right here. We got it. And I think the kind of consensus is that this is the best band that I've ever been in. You know, and like, I'm not trying to brag or whatever, but obviously it's like, we're passionate about what we do. We play all the time. You know, we already played a bunch of shows. We've recorded, we've released 2 songs. We have 3 more songs coming out in the next month or so. So it's just all been really natural, really fun. And thankfully in San Diego right now, there's a feeling of a kind of a strong resurgence in indie rock, punk rock. There's tons of great bands around town, a lot of opportunities to play. Belia, Casbah, Soda Bar, you know, Poorhouse and Oceanside. Like, so all up and down the San Diego coast, basically, there's just like a lot of opportunity. You could play every night if you wanted. And we've kind of started the bands around town that we are becoming friends with, that we have similar sound to. It's like we're all taking turns now setting up shows and booking each other, and it's different than I ever felt it in the past, where it felt pretty kind of competitive in the past. You know, of course we all want to get those like the dream gigs, right? The opening slots for the big bands that are coming through town. And so we all kind of like are angling for those at all times. And you're stoked for when one of your friends' bands gets a sick opening slot, you know, for a big international act that's come to town. But you want that slot too. And so, you know, it's pretty rad because there's a friendly kind of competition, but more so it's just like a rad community of bands that are helping each other, booking shows with each other, you know, reposting each other's stuff on Instagram. As silly as that sounds, like it does help. Mm-hmm. And it also helps the identity of your own band. You're like, okay, here's the bands we like as a band. You know, you're posting their videos, posting their flyers, posting their shows. So it kind of helps you form a bit of a scene. You know, it helps you like, okay, these are the indie rock bands in San Diego. And so it's like, I think the competition element that was in the early 2000s, but we didn't do, you know, we try to block, we try to get every gig we could. We didn't care. We're like, we want the gigs. Mm-hmm. But now it's, everyone's, I feel like, sharing a little bit more. Everyone is trying their best to like get other people seen and heard by as many people as possible. So it's a pretty rad time to be a band in San Diego. And, you know, I think playing music is the best addiction, and playing live is like one step above that addiction. Like that in itself is a constructive, awesome roller coaster of a pursuit. You know, you play one great show to a bunch of people and you're like, yes, we're doing it. The next show, there's 3 people there. And you're like, okay, humble, thank you. Next, you know, so it's like, it still happens like that, and we love it. We love every second of it. The 3 guys in Sunbender, we're all really good friends, and, you know, like, we're in a good spot right now because people want to play with us. So we're getting a lot of great shows. We're, like I said, we're recording music. We're recording 3 new songs with Chris Prescott at a studio up the road called Belly of the Whale. Chris plays in Pinback, No Knife. Like, he's a San Diego legend. Super awesome guy to record with. So very excited. You know, it is like, you kind of figure out your sound. And then for me, I'm impatient. Like, I want to get the music out as quick as possible. Luckily, Brandon is more of like, okay, hold on, let's make sure it sounds great. Let's do it. Because I'll release something recorded on my phone. You know, like I want it out there quick. But luckily the consensus is, you know, you take a little bit more time. But these days with TuneCore, SoundCloud, you know, like, it's pretty easy to get your stuff out. Now, getting people to listen to it, that's a little more difficult. But getting it out, you know, is really easy nowadays. So it's a great time to be in a band, especially in San Diego.
it's nice to see the cycles, you know, kind of come and go. But I think you're right too. Like it's nice seeing like that pop punk indie kind of sound. People actually playing their instruments again, coming back even into like the mainstream. It's really cool to finally see that again, because for a while it was all digital. It was all and nobody was playing their instruments. So having that kind of come back has been really, really cool. Yeah, I mean, I think that's good. So so for you guys now, you have a few songs out. When is there an EP? Is there an LP? Is that on the horizon?
We're gonna just release the 3 songs that we recorded as soon as possible. Like I said, probably in the next month or so. So that'll be I guess technically a 3-song EP. We did have 1 song remixed by a guy named John Herndon, aka A Great Dope. Plays drums in the band Tortoise. That was like a dream come true for me to have a Sunbender song basically chopped and screwed into what now sounds like a Tortoise song. So that's out there on all the platforms as well. So eventually we'll have 6 songs out. Hoping to do an LP, you know, sometime soon. We just pay for it ourselves, you know. It's like, again, independent.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it would mean to get signed or to make it or any of that stuff. We're having fun, and it's like it's cost effective enough to just pay to record and release our own stuff. So we're you know, like I said, we're just enjoying every aspect of it. There's no pressure. It's super fun. You know, when we have great shows, you just like you ride that high and you get excited for the next one. We're playing Wednesday night at Casbah. We're playing May 10th at Booze Brothers with a band called Crasher. So good, fun shows on the horizon. We're stoked.
So before we kind of end it, one thing is, so if you had your chance to have any piece of gear or guitar made for you, I know you said you had the Tele Deluxe, but what is your dream guitar?
Ooh. Andy like relic guitars from Fender.
Oh man, I mean, so Steve Albini and Bob Weston from Shellac have those electric guitar, you know, the guitars with the aluminum necks.
Yes,
and like
yeah.
they're like all custom done. I've seen one of those. The guy from the OCs, John Dwyer, has one that's clear. It's a guitar with the aluminum neck, and I mean the thing looks so badass. So I would say maybe a clear bass with aluminum neck with that fork neck would be a dream guitar of mine someday. It doesn't have to be clear. It could be black. Yeah, basically whatever the guys in Shellac are playing is what I would want to play. Even though that my music is definitely not as hardcore as theirs, but you know, I feel like I was always a little self-conscious about my gear and about my playing. I just didn't, you know, I was like, whatever, I'm just gonna take the bare minimum. But now I'm a lot more confident with what I have. Like I have this heart key. That's kind of like the rig that I use for clubs and stuff. I always played vintage gear before that, but it's so heavy and it's not super reliable. And so I was like, I'm just gonna buy the brand new medium line heart key gear. And that thing now serves me so perfectly. You know, I have a pedal board that I'm comfortable with, 8 pedals, just the standards. You know, when I do play solo, I play a looping pedal. So I'm looping stuff, and I play with solo shows with double neck guitar with this little keyboard, mostly just for the drum sounds. So I'll loop the bass, loop the guitar, loop drums with this. So that's kind of my solo setup.
What's your best cover song you play?
Oh, I do a medley of "I Want to Be Your Dog," Bela Lugosi's "Dead," and then I make up my own words. Fun. I started dating a Swiftie, and so I learned how to play my own version of Taylor Swift, "This Is Me Trying," which is actually fun to play. But for the most part, when I'm playing solo, it's all improv. You know, I'm like interviewing the crowd and making up songs about this dude who drove here from wherever, and like what kind of car he drives and what job he has. So most of what I play when I'm solo is improv made up on the spot. I play a couple Cut You Up songs solo decently. I do sing in a Cars cover band called the Red Cars with these insanely good jazz players. So we've played a bunch of shows where I'm singing Cars songs. It's like elite level karaoke, super fun. I think, I mean, just what I needed is a really fun song to sing and cover. So that'd probably be my favorite.
If it makes you feel good, the only Cut You Up I remember is the Destination.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've had to relearn that song like 6 times. Other bands have covered it and sent it to us, and that is just the raddest compliment ever. You know, somebody took time to learn your song and like record it and send it to you. That's pretty cool. But you know, I feel like I'm in a place right now where I love my gear, and that hasn't been like that forever. I've always, like I said, been so conscious about my stuff. Like it's gonna break, it sucks. But I have like new stuff, old stuff, a really interesting, cool guitar, a bass guitar that people ask me about at shows. You know what? I feel like it's like when I'm DJing or you know playing a show. If somebody takes the time to come up and be like, "Whoa, what song is that you're playing?" or "What bass is this?" You know, like that feels good. It means like you're doing it right when you're eliciting a conversation about a piece of gear or about you know a song or whatever. I'm not I'm not gear nerdy at all. Like I barely know how to work all the stuff that I have, but I will admit that I'm a little bit snobby when I go to see a band if they're playing guitars that I don't love. I'm like, ooh, it's like point taken away. If they're guitars that I love, and I'm like, ooh, I'm gonna like this band. You know, it's like it's weird. I'm sure you guys have a similar thing there. Like you see a band and they all have killer guitars. You're like, all right, I'm probably gonna like these guys.
If I see anybody playing a Dan Electro, I'm out. Like,
Well,
no way.
Well, I think before we conclude, Chris, is there anything else that you would like to share? Plug anything like that with our audience that follow us.
I just this is a Gear 182 podcast. I want to just like shout out Blink and everything they've done recently, getting back together, basically taking the world over again. You know, the shows they just were playing in Central America, 70,000, 100,000 people. It's super rad to see. You know, I know that as a band they've been through a lot, and I love and respect all of those guys in that band. Talk to Tom all the time, and you know, it's super rad to see like after all the drama and just crazy shit that like they've all been through, we've all been through. It's rad to see that like the music has come to the forefront again. Mm-hmm. You know, fans all over the world are so hyped to see them, and it's probably super rad because it's like little kids all the way up to grandparents at those shows.
Yeah.
So cool to see, and that's inspiring. You know, like that makes me want to just keep playing and play music. And you know, like I said, if I play to 2 people or 200,000 people, I'm pretty much equally as happy. Obviously, you get paid a little bit more the more people you played for, but that rush of not knowing if anyone's going to be at the show, or you know, are you going to play the songs right? Are you going to make mistakes? Like, how is this one going to go? Like, I love that. I live for that. So I'm going to be playing music forever. I want everybody to check out Sunbender. Proud of it. We're hyped as a band to be releasing this new stuff, and we're just going to keep doing that. Keep playing shows. Keep releasing music. You know, for me, it's like most of the stuff that I put out on social media, whether it's my mid skateboarding or surfing or playing solo, playing in bands, like I truly want it to be inspirational. You know, I want people to potentially see that and be like, oh, well, this dude still skates, or this dude still is in a band. Like, maybe I should be too. So I don't think any of us need to fully grow up, and being in a band, skating, surfing, snowboarding, doing the things that you love and make you happy will keep you young forever. So I'll never retire from music. I'll play in a freaking greasy ass dive bar when I'm 90 years old, just trying to.
I got a couple rapid things, Stefan. One thing, when we say bye, Chris, hang on for a minute. I have a t-shirt idea for your band that you might like and steal. So Stefan was talking to a guy from Fender that was saying when Tom started to go back to Fender and Mark was getting really heavy into Fender, there were a lot of like prototypes. Like he was saying, I don't know why there was a thumbs up there, but there were a lot of prototypes like what was it, a silver Porsche color Strat, a Pooh Brown colored Strat. Mark had a couple of key bases that had one knob on it. Do you remember anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, just I'm actually going to do a podcast with Brandon Parkhurst from Portal after this. At his office, there's one of those like hollow body Gibsons that Tom used to play with the racing stripes on it. I know he got really into racing stripes, and I know that like the Gibsons and the Fenders kind of like switched throughout.
Mm-hmm.
There was a bunch of those, and I believe from Fluff, Otis again, encouraged Tom or inspired Tom. He had I don't know if it was a Cyclone. I think it was a Strat or some variation of a Strat. It was basic with 2 racing stripes down the butt of it, or the big part. So I know there was a bunch of iterations of those, a bunch of different colors. A lot of the stuff that you see, and then like Tom's current guitar, I know that Tom's had back issues for a long time, and so I believe he wants his guitars to be as lightweight as possible, with still having a great sound. So I think that's why a big reason why the hollow bodies are coming to play. They're very light, and super easy to play. So that helps. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the art and stuff and the stickers, like that's all him just screwing around. Him and his guitar tech.
Awesome.
They've been a team for a long time. Joseph Pereira, and yeah, they like spray paint the guitars and mess them up and fix them up and stuff. All that customization stuff, that's done by them. It's not like in-house guy at Fender or something like that. Like they get the guitars and they abuse them and make them look crazy, which is pretty rad.
Yeah. Since it's been 22 years, can we safely ask you who's the coolest member of Green Day in person?
Ooh. Mike was always so lovable and loving to us. He would always give us bottles of tequila on that tour. He's always been a super sweetheart. We've hung out with Trey, like in the past couple years. He's more devious. So I think like sweetest, you'd have to say Mike. Billy obviously like took us under his wing pretty early. So on that tour, it was Billy first, but then Mike it was kind of like divorced like parents. It was hard to pick your favorite because whoever was being nice to you that night at the time or free alcohol was it. Trey and Billy definitely got us into the most trouble. Trey was right there behind him, always up for antics, always up to do whatever. But Mike was always like a real sweetheart to us. He gave me a bass guitar, a broken one. It was just broken and burnt, and I was like, "Yo, can I have that?" And he's like, "Of course." Like, so they're all sweethearts.
Oh, cool. You still got it?
Somewhere maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, I rarely sell gear because every time I sell a piece of gear, I miss it. I feel horrible about it. But like, I have like 3 or 4 guitars and 3 or 4 basses, and like, can't get to. You don't want them just sitting around, right? You want them to be played.
Right. The last thing I was gonna say is me and Stefan are gonna be in San Diego in June. Hopefully your band will have some shows. We might go hit one up or hit you up for coffee or.
Hell yeah!
Pretty cool.
Oh, you guys something kind of cool. So this is a lost art, in my opinion. When I was growing up, San Diego indie rock scene, people used to make their own merch. Like make their own covers for 7 inches. I know this happened a lot around in the punk rock world, but so I make my own merch. This was something I made for Record Store Day right here. It's an exclusive Record Store Day. It's got all the hits on one stick. That's me. It comes with stickers that you can do yourself, a computer stick with all the songs, and an autographed squirter.
Wow. Why can't all bands do
Yeah.
Left. This was just made this morning, actually. This is the Sunbender merch bundle bonus pack. So this has a white Lamborghini shirt, a white Lamborghini matching hat, stickers, amazing decal assortment for you right there. So this will be available at our shows on Wednesday.
Oh, that's sick.
Love it.
I got to make a couple more of these. They sell like hotcakes. I mean, you can't keep them in stock.
That's
I would
awesome.
buy one. I mean,
Yeah, I'd buy one. 100%. I'd buy one.
It'll be available online. I'll custom make orders for anybody.
Yeah.
Follow us on Instagram at Sunbender with no E at the end, just at Sunbender.
We'll post that in the description too to make sure that it
Yeah.
gets out there.
Epic
Yeah,
yeah, tag comment too or whatever. Pin.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Well, Chris, honestly, thank you. Like, thank you for this. This is for me. I can say, and for your June Cup as well. This was definitely an honor to actually have you on and just talk. It was awesome. I so appreciate it. And thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're a busy guy, so.
Right on. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Keep rocking.
Keep rocking. Yeah.
Bye.
Take care.